Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Week 16, NFL Week 16 Jam Bets Edition. I am Tyke, joined as always by the marvelous partner here. I think this is our sixth or seventh show, so thank you everyone for joining in.
Yep, Mamma Mia is joining you too. So, got another good game, Tyke. What are you gonna roll with today?
So we've got a couple topics we're going to go over. We're going to recap our Week 15, get our popcorn ready matchups where we both picked one game that we really honed into. We picked an overperformer and an underperformer in Week 15. We'll go over those. Then we're going to jump right into the Thursday night matchup, Broncos versus the Chargers. Thursday night, AFC West playoff implication game. So, Mamma Mia, I'll let you kick it off with your Week 15 recap.
Okay, thank you, number one son. Um, I had the Tampa Bay game at the Chargers, and I picked Tampa to win, and they did. That game ended up with I think it was 40 to 13 or something. It was
40 to 17 or something. It was a
40 to
blowout.
17. Yep, 40 to 17. So I had picked up I'd mentioned a sleeper named um, Jalen McMillan. Yep, he scored the first touchdown in that game, and then Mike Evans did have a touchdown in that game as well. Tampa never looked back. They were only behind for a little bit in the second quarter, and then they came raging back and put their defense put their heel on Los Angeles after the second quarter. They just never let them back in the game. Baker had a big day, and Otten didn't have that big of a day, but his time of possession in that game, Tampa had 36, almost 37 minutes of time of possession. Um, they rushed for 30. They rushed 39 times for 233 yards. LA rushed 11 times for 32 yards. Um, there was 4 touchdowns by Tampa, 4 passing touchdowns by Tampa, 1 interception. LA threw for 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Um, Fair amount of penalties, but pretty much Tampa just dominated this game. And let's see, my fella McMillan, he was second in targets. He caught 5 of 6 for 75 yards, 1 touchdown. Like I said, Mike Evans had the big day. He caught 9 of 11, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he was Baker Mayfield's best friend.
Who was your
Both running.
overperformer?
My overperformer, I think I went with Jalen McMillan. He was my kind of a sleeper, gonna go off kind of guy. And I also had on the Chargers, another sleeper that I mentioned was Smart. I thought he was going to have a good game, and he had 5 of 6 targets he caught for 50 yards, so that wasn't bad as the fill-in tight end. So he did pretty good. And of course, for my underperformers, I had Gus Edwards, and I think he's the goat of underperformers right now. Does that make sense? Can you be a goat of underperformers or an underperforming goat?
The greatest
No.
underperformer of all time.
Yeah, maybe
The
that's a
Goot.
goot.
Yeah,
A
he's the
goot.
Goot.
He's a goot. Greatest of underperformers. Goat. Gout. Get out. Get out. He's a get out player. He's no good. He's just not making it happen. And again, he struggled mightily. They don't seem to have an answer. He had 8 attempts for 23 yards. There was no passes to him. He he might as well sat on the bench. He didn't participate in this game very much. Maybe he's blocking a lot. He's probably pretty good at that, but he is not a productive running back right now. So that's what I had for my get your popcorn ready game, and my players who would underperform and overperform. And I think you had a pretty interesting game as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I had the Sunday night football game. I had Packers at the Seahawks, another divisional playoff type game. Packers really kind of put the whooping on them. Packers were winning 20-6 at halftime. Packers ran cover 3 42% of all of their defensive plays versus their average right about 32%. So Packers went into a defense that was working for them. It's a defense that typically Seahawks receivers don't do well in. Packers just being up so much forced the Seahawks to have to pass the ball, as you just mentioned. Yeah, sorry. Seahawks were really stalled out. My underperformer that I picked was Jackson Smith-Njigba. He had a pretty good game. Geno Smith was just throwing him the ball every time he possibly could. And then Geno Smith got hurt in the third quarter, and Sam Howell came in, and Sam Howell continued to just throw the ball to Jackson Smith-Njigba. Jackson Smith-Njigba ended with 12 targets and 10 receptions. Now, he only had 83 yards, luckily. You know, he didn't take one for a huge gain. He did not have any touchdowns, but he had 18 fantasy points. He had over 55% of all throws came his way. So the Seahawks were just feeding him the ball. I think DK Metcalf had 3 or 4 receptions. Tyler Lockett didn't have very many as well. So he had a pretty good game, although Seahawks really struggled. They pretty much got blown out, had to abandon the run, relied on the pass heavily. And then they came up very short. As for my overperformer, I had Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs had 26 carries for 138 total yards, 1 touchdown. Jacobs also had 4 receptions, which was second on the team in receptions. He ended with 23.4 fantasy points. He had everything that could have happened for him to have a big game happened. They got up big. They had the run. They were dumping the ball off to him. Packers really took it to the Seahawks pretty good. Packers ended up covering pretty easily. With the Seahawks losing, the Seahawks now have a 35% chance to make the playoffs. So quite the underperformance by the Seahawks in general. So that's what we have for our recaps of last week. Get your popcorn ready. We're going to move on to the Thursday night game. We've got another divisional matchup here. We have the Broncos at the Chargers. AFC West match. Mama, what do you have?
Oh my goodness. Last time this meeting was, these two teams met, it was in Denver on week 6. And LA won 23-16. So right now the Broncos record is 9-5 and the Chargers is 8-6. Clearly the Broncos want this win to even up for home field advantage in the playoffs. Today, both teams have really good odds to be wild card players in the playoffs. If the Broncos win, they're 99% in the playoffs. If the Chargers win, they're 97% into the playoffs. So, it looks like there's a lot of things that are going on. They both are rated first in points against defenses. So this is quite going to be a defensive battle, unless the Chargers fall apart again like they did against the Buccaneers last week. But I got a feeling they're going to be primed for this game. So do you want me to do my get my overs and unders ready?
We'll do that in just a quick second. So I think another interesting storyline or narrative for this game is the coaches. Sean Payton and Jim Harbaugh both brought in. Both these coaches were brought in to ultimately beat the Chiefs. However, they're going to have to face each other, and they are expected to beat each other as well. They're two very good coaches. Both have been to the Super Bowl. Sean Payton has a Super Bowl win. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup there. I think there's a lot of eyes on the coaches. I think both coaches desperately want this win. especially with Jim Harbaugh having the head-to-head matchup win right now for this season. If I'm Sean Payton, I'm using that. It's a divisional game. I'm using that as some motivation. So yeah, Mamma Mia, who do you have as your player, as your first player to watch out for?
Well, I am real excited about the kicking game in this game. We have been picking other players in the past couple of weeks, and then it's always a kick. It's been a kicking game. Dicker has been pretty good. He's made 29 out of 31 field goal attempts, 93.5%. So he's a little better than Will Lutz, who has 27 of 30 for 90%. Dicker also has made 25 of 28 extra points. He was pivotal in the last game that they met. He did quite a bit of scoring. He had 2 field goals, one at 46 yards, one at 30. I'm sorry, 3. A 20-yarder, a 33-yarder, and a 46-yarder. The last meeting, however, the Chargers had J.K. Dobbins, and he ran for a touchdown. And Kamani Vidal also ran for a touchdown in the last meeting. The Broncos, didn't score until the fourth quarter of that game. So it seems to me that the Chargers understand how important this game is, and their defense was rather embarrassed last week, so they're probably going to pick it up. But I think this will be a really close game, and I'm looking forward to seeing Cameron Dicker be the best kicker in the game here. So that's my overperformer for this game. I think the defenses are going to play hard, and that's going to be necessary for him to make those field goals. What do you have for your overperformer?
So I'm going to start with a sleeper that I have, and you actually touched on him. I'm going to take Kimani Vindel as my sleeper. He's on the Chargers running back, taking up the GOAT, Gus Edwards. He's currently his backup. The Broncos' defense has been just outstanding against the run. They're only allowing 80 rush yards per game, which is the 6th lowest in the NFL. However, they've been very susceptible to receiving yards and receiving backs out of the backfield. Broncos are allowing the 7th most receptions to running backs per game. The 7th most reception yards to running backs per game, and the 4th most receptions to running backs per game. Vindel has also been quietly taking over snaps from Gus Edwards now that J.K. Dobbins is out. Week 13, Vindel only played 26% of snaps, which was against the Chiefs. Week 14, Vindel played 52% of snaps. And then last week against the Buccaneers, when it was a pass-required offense, Vindel played 64% of the snaps. So in passing-type situations, Vindel is the guy to be out there. And I don't think the Chargers are going to have much success running Gus or running against the Broncos in general. So for that reason, I'm going to be taking Vindel he's my sleeper. I think maybe he'll get in the end zone again as he did in their previous matchup. But I think his receptions and just playmaking out of the backfield is what's going to have him have a pretty good game. So, Mama, who is your next pick?
Well, I also think you should keep an eye on Smart on the Chargers. I think he might really be coming into his own. He had, like I talked about against the Tampa Bay game, he had a pretty decent game there. He might be somebody that sneaks past that Denver defense a little bit. So my underperformer, I'm gonna say is gonna be Bo Nix. I think he's gonna go up against a defense that scared him pretty much last time, maybe scarred him last time they met, and he's doing okay, but he's got 21 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, so that's a 2-to-1 ratio. He scores on or their offense scores 35.8% of the time, which is average. It's not that great though. And with his ability to maybe get stymied or a lot of pressure from that defense, looking for that Tahib Steele maybe to catch another one and run it back for a touchdown. Derwin James is also back there, and Diana Henley is a linebacker who seems to be just on fire. So I think Bo Nix is going to have a bit of a tough time again tonight. That's my underperformer. And it's going to be a low-scoring game, I'm pretty sure. Watch.
Yeah.
Watch, he has the game of his life, But I don't think so. I think the Chargers will be ready for him, and I don't know if he's ready for that defense.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if this is a high-scoring game, but it's the NFL. Crazy things happen every week, but I'm with you. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think you're spot on. I think this is going to be the game of the kicker here. So for my next player, I do think there's going to be quite a bit of underperformance in the game, but I'm going to be taking Sutton as an overperformer in an underperforming game. I don't think Sutton's going to blow the roof off the stadium. I think expectations for this game from a fantasy standpoint is probably pretty low, considering all the implications and divisional matchup on this game. But Sutton plays 81% of his offensive snaps as the far outside receiver. Chargers are giving up 150 receiving yards to wide receivers each game. Sutton's currently averaging about 8 targets per game, which is about 23% target share. And he's getting 13.3 yards per reception. So it's only going to take a couple of receptions for him to go over that 50, 60, 70-yard mark. On top of that, Cam Hart, the Chargers' left cornerback, is out. He will not be playing. Now, I don't know what side of the field Sutton is going to be playing on, but if he's on that side, he's going to be facing a second-string guy. And on top of that, Elijah Molden, the Chargers' free safety, is currently doubtful and does not look like he's going to play. I think the Chargers, they have a stellar player in Derwin James, but I think the Chargers are really going to need him in the box because I think both teams are going to try to run this ball a lot, and I don't think they're going to want to give up, any big plays, and they're definitely going to have to shut down the run. So I'm going to be very curious to see what they do with Derwin James if he's over the top or if he's down in the box trying to stop the run. But regardless, the Chargers' pass defenders are currently hurting. However, they're going to have Bosa and Mack, so that might be able to make up the difference. But I'm looking for Sutton to get a lot of cheap, easy, quick targets. I think his receptions is, if you're in a PPR league, I think you're safe. If you're not in PPR, I would maybe be a little bit hesitant to play Sutton this week.
Okay. Well, he did have a touchdown last time. He was one of the scorers. Him and Tony Franklin both had touchdowns in the fourth quarter last time these two teams met. I'm going to pick the Chargers to win. I believe they are favored by just 3. Is that right? 3 points?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're favored by 3, which means at home they're not really favored, are they?
No.
So, but yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. We'll see. Chargers they got their lumps last week. I'm hoping that they can rebound from that, and they are missing a few other players, I think, too. So it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
Who do you think's going to win?
I'm going to take the Broncos. I think the Broncos are going to even up the score. I think this a little bit too many injuries on the Chargers side, and I think their lack of run game is going to ultimately be what hurts it. I think the Broncos may have a lot more time of possession in this game than the Chargers. I still think it's going to be low scoring, but I can see the Chargers defense being on the field for quite a while, which I think will be the difference maker.
See, I think Sean Payton is very wily, right? So, and he's gutsy. Well, so is Harbaugh, but Harbaugh just likes to run the ball down your throat and play good defense. But somebody's going to have to break this open. So maybe we see a hook and ladder play, or some kind of, I don't know. Onside kicks are not what they used to be, but Sean Payton is the king of those. I mean, he's a GOAT for sure. So, yeah. So Harbaugh's got something to prove tonight, and they both do. It's. I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait for kickoff.
Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome game. All right, so we'll be back Sunday morning, early afternoon with our recap and some additional picks and looks that we're gonna have for Week 16. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.